This is the Airplane Challenge. The purpose of this lab activity is to design and fly a paper airplane and to win in one of three categories. One is the plane that can go the farthest. Another is a plane that will stay in the air the longest. And the other one is the plane that can travel the fastest speed. This lab is broken up into several different days. The first day you're going to pick your plane design. The second day you are going to pick how you throw the plane. And the third day is to decide how much mass you want to add to the plane using paper clips. The first part of the Paper Airplane Challenge is deciding which design is going to work best in any three of those categories that you want your airplane to win. So the three different designs are the Dart, the Stealth, and the Bumble. So we're going to build all three of these. We're going to go throw them, and we're going to measure the distance that it travels, the time that they spent in the air, and we'll be able to calculate the speed. So in order to accurately measure the speed and the time in the air, the time stops and the distance stops when the plane lands on the ground. So if it hits and it slides, well, that sliding motion doesn't count. It's where it lands. The purpose of this is to see which of these three designs performs best, and then moving on with the next one, you're only going to select one. So now let's see how you build each of these designs. Now that we've built all three of these airplanes, we can go outside and we can go throw them, and we can measure the distance, the time in the air, and we can calculate the speed based on that. Now that we have the data for all three planes, we need to decide which one is going to work best. Remember, there are three categories in which to win: distance, time, and speed. So one of these might be better in one of the categories, one of them might be better in the other. It just depends on which one you want to go for. Now let's move on to the next section of the Airplane Challenge. In this section of the Airplane Challenge, we're going to decide on what's the best technique to throw the plane. So the first part, we should have eliminated two of the designs, and we're only going to pick one of those designs that we tested the previous part. So now we're going to decide, well, what's the best throwing technique? So there are three different throwing techniques that we're going to use. The first one is just using the wrist and the elbow flick. The next is a full body, slow but controlled, like slow and controlled. The last is as fast as possible. Okay? Like think about throwing a baseball, just throwing it as fast as possible. So now we're going to use the best design from the previous part, and we're going to decide what best technique to throw it with for that final throw. Now let's go outside, let's take that plane, and let's throw them with those 3 different techniques. Now that we have the data from those 3 different techniques, we can decide which technique is going to work best to win in one of those 3 categories: the distance, the time, or the speed. Now let's move on to the next section of the airplane challenge. For the next section of the airplane challenge, the mass of the airplane is going to be manipulated, and it's going to be manipulated using paper clips. So we're going to use 3 different scenarios. We're going to use one with 1 paper clip, another with 3 paper clips, and then the last one is going to be using 5 paper clips. So we should have already decided which of these 3 designs is the best based on the first part of the airplane challenge. In the second part of the challenge, we decided, well, what's the best technique to throw this airplane? And in the third part, in this part, we're now going to use the selected airplane design. We're going to use the selected throw technique, and now we're going to manipulate, well, the mass. We're going to be adding paper clips. So let's go take our airplane design that was chosen. Let's use our desired throwing technique, and let's go outside and throw the airplane with those different paper clips attached to them. So now that we've collected data on the 3 different scenarios with the paper clips, we have enough data to decide what we're going to use for our final throw. So now let's move on to the final throw of the airplane challenge. This is the final flight for the airplane challenge. This is just one throw. Now we should have already decided, well, which of those awards are we going through? Are we going for the distance? Are we going for the time in the air? Or are we going for the speed? So the first part, we should have eliminated 2 of the 3 designs, and we've chosen one that moves on. In the second part, we should have chosen a throwing technique for that one airplane that we've chosen. And in the third part, we used that one airplane design, we used that throwing technique, and we manipulated the mass by adding paper clips, and we should have chosen which one of those will work best for our final launch. So now, let's go ahead, let's take our airplane, put the number of paper clips, know which technique that you're going to use, and let's go throw it for one final flight. Now that we've threw our desired paper airplane with that technique, with that paper clips, we can now calculate the final speed. So we measured distance, we measured the time that it was in the air. As soon as it hit the ground, we stopped it. As soon as it hit the ground, that's where the distance stopped. Now we can use the equation for speed to calculate how fast that airplane went. So once again, this is the airplane challenge.